There are some pretty obvious reasons why Donald Trump does not like to do interviews with anyone except hosts at the Fox propaganda outlet, Newsmax, and podcasters who just lob softball questions at him. One, it's because he knows that the economy is tanking, his approval rating is dropping like a stone, and things are just generally going poorly. But it's also because every time Donald Trump opens his mouth, something is bound to backfire. And that is exactly what just happened in a recent interview with Trump when he got a little bit of pushback, which rarely happens, after getting caught in a lie about a promise he made on the campaign trail about the war in Ukraine. And it was an instant meltdown. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now let's start this interview where it opened up. Donald Trump lying about tariffs. I have to stop him right there because this tariff argument is so stupid when Donald Trump talks about manufacturing. He paints this idealistic picture about bringing back these plants, bringing back these manufacturing jobs, investing in the middle class, which runs counter to everything he did in his first term when we saw a mass exodus of American manufacturing. And also, it runs counter to everything he plans to do in this term right now and has already done. The funding that he cut from the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act to invest in good-paying manufacturing jobs, how does that have anything to do with manufacturing? Donald Trump's tax cuts for giant corporations, how does that help the middle class? This is just a complete lie from Donald Trump. And the idea that he thinks these plants are suddenly going to spring up out of nowhere, they're just going to come about when there's so much uncertainty and unrest in the economy that companies don't even want to invest any of their cash or capital right now, it's just an idiotic argument from Donald Trump. But of course, we continue to see more of those idiotic arguments from Steve Witkoff when he was asked about Ukraine, which will be the topic of the next question Donald Trump gets in this interview. But first, let's listen to what he had to say.
It does sound as though Putin wants to keep the land that he seized, and then he wants Ukraine to not be able to defend itself in the future. Is Trump worried that accepting these conditions might just set the stage for another Russian invasion of Ukraine?
Jake, I would not call your description entirely accurate. Look, back before this visit, there was another visit, and before that visit, the two sides were miles apart in where they were. The two sides are today a lot closer.
So it's incredibly clear in that interview, and I just wanted to play a short clip because we only need to hear so much of their lies, that they're just trying to cede ground to Putin. I continue to bring this up when the discussion of anything related to Donald Trump as a quote-unquote negotiator and trying to bring Ukraine to the table. He continues to say, well, they don't have any cards. They don't have any cards. Donald Trump is trying to hurt the position of the Ukrainian people, trying to hurt the position of President Zelensky in an effort, as he says, to bring them to the table. But it's really just to help Putin. He's already failed to live up to the promise of what he said he would do, which is what he was asked about right here.
But as a candidate, you said you would have this war settled in 24 hours.
Well, I was being a little bit sarcastic when I said that. What I really mean is I'd like to get it settled.
You were being sarcastic? Imagine if Joe Biden said that. Imagine if any Democrat said that about any promise they made, especially one as significant as ending a war in 24 hours. I was just joking around. And again, this is how everything Donald Trump says always runs counter to every other thing he said. Well, one, being the pro-peace candidate, and two, saying there's nothing more important than ending this war because I, above all other people, Trump says, am so upset by the death and destruction. Trump pretends like he cares more than Zelensky about the destruction of Ukraine. But he thinks it's funny. He thinks it's a joke. He's being sarcastic about the war. It's just absolutely nonsensical and embarrassing that this guy is our leader. It just doesn't even make sense what he tries to say. Again, going back to the tariff point, he doesn't understand the economy. He doesn't understand negotiating. He doesn't understand American foreign policy. He's just stupid. And now is the time to fill the gap of the vacuum of information that's about to come with MAGA Republicans running away from the press and running away from their constituents with some pushback. And of course, someone we see do an incredible job every day of that is Senator Chris Murphy, who I want to take a listen to right here.
House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries was asked if he has confidence in Leader Schumer, and he said, next question. He effectively dodged the question multiple times. So let me put this question to you. Do you have confidence in Leader Schumer's leadership?
So Leader Schumer has a very difficult job. I don't envy the job that he has. And the question is really for the members of his Democratic caucus. Are we willing to fight, right? I admit that it would take some risk-tolerant behavior in order to effectively stand up to this president. And so the question really is for my party writ large, are we willing to do the very difficult things necessary to meet this moment?
Do you think that Leader Schumer is the best person to lead your caucus in this moment?
Senator Schumer certainly can lead this caucus.
Is he the best person?
He can lead this caucus, but we need to have a conversation inside the caucus about whether we are willing to stand up to Republicans. Listen, we have options. We could decide to not proceed to legislation as an ordinary course of business. There are big fights ahead of us, like the debt ceiling, like another potential government shutdown in 6 months. So we have opportunities as a caucus to stand up and meet this moment, and I think the American people are demanding that we do that.
Just yes or no before we move on. Do you have confidence in Leader Schumer?
I still support Senator Schumer as leader, but I think the only way that we are going to be effective as a caucus is if we change our tactics, and we have to have a conversation inside our caucus to make sure that we are going to do that.
So Senator, is Leader Schumer wrong?
So let's pull back for a second. This is not a normal political moment. This is not a normal political fight. What Donald Trump is doing right now is absolutely insidious. He is every single day acting unconstitutionally. He is trying to destroy the rule of law. And for what? To essentially hand our government over to the billionaire class so that they can steal from us. There is a level of corruption happening in this White House that is absolutely unprecedented. And so this, to me, is a moment where we need to be restraining the president's power, not giving him new authorities. And for those of us that voted against this budget bill, part of our worry is that it does give the president new authority to move money around, new authority to begin new programming, cuts some essential services for the poor and the middle class. And while I totally understand my colleagues who didn't want to catapult us into a shutdown, I actually think that the American people would have understood that Republicans have an obligation to negotiate with Democrats. This is the first full-year spending bill since I've been in Congress that was written only by the Republican Party. So, yes, it would have been a risk. I understand the decision that many of my Democratic colleagues made, but I think the American people want us to take risks right now in order to save our democracy.
Do you think that Leader Schumer is the best person to lead your caucus in this moment?
Senator Schumer certainly can lead this caucus.
Is he the best person?
He can lead this caucus, but we need to have a conversation inside the caucus about whether we are willing to stand up to Republicans. Listen, we have options. We could decide to not proceed to legislation as an ordinary course of business. There are big fights ahead of us, like the debt ceiling, like another potential government shutdown in 6 months. So we have opportunities as a caucus to stand up and meet this moment, and I think the American people are demanding that we do that.
Just yes or no before we move on. Do you have confidence in Leader Schumer?
I still support Senator Schumer as leader, but I think the only way that we are going to be effective as a caucus is if we change our tactics, and we have to have a conversation inside our caucus to make sure that we are going to do that.
So let's talk about
the billionaire class, the corporate class, the private equity class. They are sick to death that they don't have their hands inside the Department of Education Treasury, that they can't get their hands on our schools like they've gotten their hands into our healthcare system and into every other aspect of our economy. What they want to do is to sell off our public schools to the highest bidder. Right? The voucher program that they're talking about, that they will be more easily able to implement if the Department of Education is gone, is really about just making it easier for the billionaire and corporate class to be able to buy up our schools so that they can make money off of it, like they make money off of the Medicare program, like they make money off of so many other aspects of our government. So if the Department of Education closes, it's going to hurt millions of families in this country. It's just going to enable the theft of resources from regular families to pad the pockets of the billionaires. But it is also likely to result in you waking up one day and finding out that your local elementary school that your kids go to is owned by a private equity firm on the other side of the country and is being run for profit instead of being run for the education of your kids.
We need to be fighting back all the time. We need to be like MAGA in one small way, which is we need to flood the zone. We need to be on them all the time. We've seen Democrats launch tours in red districts. We're seeing them hit back on Fox. We need more of this energy, and we're certainly going to be bringing it every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.